they find out she had been adopted before, and this lady had her for a year. And the entire year, she's trying to adopt her out to anybody who will take her.
Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Hey, everybody. Welcome again to the Family School of Thought. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't forget, if I don't mention it 13 times during the episode, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tell everybody you know about us. And we're always looking for your feedback at Family School of Thought at gmail.com. Okay, let's get going this week. Jesse, let's hear some history facts.
Okay, yeah. History Unexplained Mysteries. This one is a special one because it's about dinosaurs.
Oh.
Odin should be sitting in for a guest.
No. The dinosaur of Tapram. It's deep in the countryside of Cambodia at a site near a legendary Angkor Wat known as Tapram. Historians have been puzzled for years by what appears to be the image of a stegosaurus. It's carved into the stone of one of the temple walls. Originally obscured by some strangling roots of banyan trees and other jungle plants, the hand-sized image has inspired a flurry of theories by scholars and history buffs alike. Some argue that the image is simply a cow or a rhinoceros. That's what it says, not rhinoceros, rhinoceros, depicted with a palm tree behind it, explaining what appears to be spikes, which appears to be the spikes of the creature's back. Others, more hopeful minds, insist that the depiction, seemingly carved at the time of the temple's construction in the late 1100s, clearly shows a stegosaurus in a convincing detail. Which of these theories is true? The world may never know. But travelers of Cambodia and Tapram each year are greeted by the puzzling image, and no firm consensus has yet to be reached to explain the presence. So, were the dinosaurs around with humans, Homo sapiens, or was this just a cow or a rhinoceros with a palm tree? I don't know what it looks like, so I can't. Let me see if I can find it.
I'm sure you, of all people, know this, but scientists have basically come up with the idea that the images we know of as dinosaurs probably are false because of skeletons of animals that we have now, which have a lot of fat flubber on them. And feathers, and so they think that dinosaurs probably looked a lot differently than what we imagine because we're only seeing them as skeletons.
And on top of it, because we're only seeing them as skeletons, but there's theories out there that the Tyrannosaurus Rex was actually more like an ostrich or like a peacock. So, or not a peacock, an ostrich, or an emu. That's what I was trying to think of. Not a peacock. So yeah. That's something too. But yeah, we're starting to see.
I've never heard that theory that they don't really look like we think they do.
That's what the
do not
theory
explain this to Odin as of yet.
He hasn't figured it out yet. I'm sure he'll get to it in a couple years.
Devastated.
But that's why they think the T-Rex's arms are so short, is because they actually resemble the skeleton of like a
so they were wings.
Because they were wings.
Huh. I never heard that before.
But hey, I will share my screen because I found a picture of the dinosaur carving. So there you go.
And what year was this?
It was carved in the 1100s. So 1000.
That does look like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it does look close to a stegosaurus. So there you go.
Wow. Well, in 1100 BC, right?
It doesn't say, but yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Well, they're
Uh-oh.
wow. I wouldn't have thought there'd been dinosaurs around that time.
Hi, gorgeous.
Do not tell them what we're talking about.
I thought he heard what we were talking about and he came to investigate.
He's like, what?
I'm sure he has so many interesting facts.
I'm sure he does too, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
wow, that's very fascinating.
Yes.
Something to think about. Something to think about.
There you go. Something to think about. You know, is it a dinosaur? Is it, you know, an elephant or some other animal? But you think too, like the rhinoceros is kind of close to what we depict as what a dinosaur would kind of look like. Obviously a lot smaller, but it's similar to like a triceratops or something like that. So maybe
like
this was just the you know, this was a stegosaurus or a, you know, relative of the stegosaurus.
Yeah.
So
in the same gene family.
Right. Because there's dinosaurs that we depict, you know, again, too. It's like what we look at based on their skeleton, but they'll look similar to a crocodile. I can't tell you what the name is in the dinosaur terms, but
there's been so many books that I think
they look like crocodiles or alligators, and they're not.
And the
They're
shark
some other
one,
term. So,
I've seen many pictures.
So
that
maybe this is just the evolution of a stegosaurus through the years, and then it finally died out. Maybe, you know, maybe a meteor didn't hit the Earth and wipe out all the dinosaurs. I don't know. Maybe they're just space aliens.
Or the Earth is flat, and the asteroid hit it, and then it just kind of span a couple times, and all the like heavy ones flew off. And the lighter ones that could hang on.
There you go. But so the people who are watching us on YouTube can see the picture because I'm sharing my screen right now. But for anybody that's listening to us in a vehicle or while they're doing dishes or mowing the lawn, anybody that's just listening to us, the carving looks very closely to, I would say, a stegosaurus, but it also looks like it almost has a crown like a triceratops too. No horns, but it looks like it's got a crown.
Like you're saying, like front facing, like because I'm thinking it looks like the body of a stegosaurus, but you're saying like if you look at it as face.
Like right here, it looks like it could, or it's either big ears, like is that an ear?
Yeah.
So
I see what you're saying.
But it looks, and it's really, I don't think a stegosaurus. Because there is a dinosaur. I should have kept Odin in here because he would know. But there is a dinosaur that looks like a stegosaurus. It's not called a stegosaurus, but it's got flat plates rather than pointy plates on its back. So
those look pretty flat.
And they look more flat than pointy to me.
You're right.
Yeah, so to me it looks kind of like the face or like the head of a triceratops without the horns, but then the back of like similar to a stegosaurus.
Alrighty.
There you go. There's the history unsolved mysteries.
That is definitely an unsolved mystery.
Yeah, sounds a thinker.
Okay. Anything else, Jess?
That is it.
Okay.
That's all you have for us today?
Cass, how about a song for us?
Yeah, I got a song for us today. So this song this week is a 90s song, and it's Hey Man, Nice Shot by Filter. I'll believe number. Yeah, I said, Hey Man, Nice Shot.
Oh, yeah, I know.
In that song?
I don't recognize it.
You would know it if you heard it. It's like an alternative kind of post-grunge 90s song. You would know it. And you think he's saying, you know, hey man, nice shot. You think maybe he's playing sports, right? Maybe he took a shot of basketball, soccer. No, that is not what this song is about. This song is about the public suicide of Robert Bud Dwyer. And he was In 1965 to 1971, he was the Republican member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. And then he later became the Pennsylvania State Treasurer from 1981 up until 1987, when he went on live television and shot and killed himself at a press conference.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
I don't
At the press
remember
conference.
this happening.
This was in 1987, and he had just been found guilty of mail fraud, racketeering, perjury, and conspiracy to take bribery.
I do remember hearing about that, but I don't remember him getting on and shooting
Live at a press conference, and then it would later. So they would so it was live, and then some TV stations actually played it later on in the day. So they knew what happened, and they still played it for the public.
Wait, repeat that. It cut out.
Yeah, we lost.
So it was live, and some people saw it live, but then later, TV stations would later that night still play the footage, even though they knew what was happening. I'm sure they gave a warning and everything, but they would play it later. And so they would play it past the live broadcast.
I'm sure I must have seen that.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't ever remember seeing that. I mean, I definitely would have remembered that
What's
because
his
that
name?
was traumatic.
His name was Robert Bud Dwyer. He was a
Wow.
Pennsylvania state treasurer. But so that is what this song is about. That is what the lead singer.
There was a day when people were ashamed of committing these kind of things.
Yes, but you probably are also ashamed of getting convicted of mail fraud and conspiracy to commit bribery. So there's probably a line that some people are not willing to cross, but some people are. But so, like I said, this is what that song is about. This lead singer has come forward and said this is the person the song is about. But the song was released it was written in 1991, but it wasn't released until 1995. And when it was released, a lot of people were concerned that it was not about Robert Dwyer, but it was about Kurt Cobain's suicide instead, because he had committed suicide in 1994. So a lot of people were saying that the song was about that instead, and celebrating it, unfortunately.
It must be in a movie or on a TV show
It's
or
in
something. You hear it a lot.
Yeah, it was a really popular song. It got really popular really fast. It does say that it was in the movie The Cable Guy with what's his name?
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
And who sings this?
It's a band called Filter. I doubt you would know.
No, I don't know who they are. If it's
a lot
not
of radio
country,
plays.
if it's not on Whittle, I don't know it.
Okay.
They wouldn't play this on yours.
Okay, so
sure.
again, for our listeners and our viewers, Whittle is a local country station. WITL is the call sign.
Yeah.
100.7.
100.7.
Shout out to Whittle.
So if you are
If you're in mid-Michigan, then
you know what it is, yeah.
Like country music, there's a country music station for you.
It's-
Shout out to
That
Whittle.
won't play Dixie Chicks.
They still won't play Dixie Chicks?
They still,
They're
if all you hear-
They're not called Dixie Chicks anymore.
They're
That's
just called
you're
the
right.
Chicks.
The Chicks. The Chicks. You're right.
It kind of tells you what kind of station it is. But anyway,
I didn't say they still didn't play them.
let's not talk about them. That's a good song, and it's a song that you hear a lot. So
Yes.
I'm thinking it must be in a TV show or something.
I'm sure it was in a lot of early 2000s films with that. It's a very it is very alternative, very grunge. It is a hard rock song, and it is very, reminiscent of a lot of early 2000s darker films that had the edgier soundtracks.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I have to
Alrighty.
listen to that.
There you go. It was about the public suicide of a Republican representative.
Wow.
Wow. How devastating.
All right.
That's your song for the week. Pretty creepy.
Pretty creepy.
Sound creepy to me.
And I sure hope that somebody's got an upbringing.
Yeah, I'm sure this week's story is going to be super uplifting.
Jess.
It's not my week.
Well, it's James. What's your top subject on Ted?
Okay, you guys ready for me?
Yeah.
We are.
All right. I think it's a good story. And it's when I tell you the story, you're gonna swear you've seen this in a movie.
Okay.
But this is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a couple, Christine and Michael Barnett. They lived in Indiana, and in 2010, they were doing very well for themselves. They had a big house. They drove really nice, expensive vehicles. They had some cash in the bank. They were very successful. Each of them had successful careers. They also had a daycare for um, disabled children, and they
Okay.
had three sons of their own. And the oldest was, I think, 14, and he had autism, but he was a genius. He was actually, I think, taking college classes at 14, and he was, one of those prodigy kids that was a genius. And they were so happy with their lives um, that they decided they were going to adopt another child so they could share all this good life with somebody. So they originally set out to adopt a child, and it kind of went sideways. And I'm not really sure what reason, but it really devastated them. They were really disappointed because they thought they were going to have this baby. And then a few months after that, they live in Indiana. A orphanage from Florida called them and said, we understand that you're looking to adopt a baby, and we have a child here who is 6 and from Ukraine, and she has dwarfism, and she has a lot of health problems because of that. And so we just thought you'd be like the perfect couple since you're already kind of set up to take care of disadvantaged kids. And so they were really excited. They were like, oh, great, this is going to work out. We're going to have this baby girl with us. And she's 6, but she's a dwarf, he has dwarfism, a small person. So the only thing is, this orphanage wanted them to adopt her within 24 hours. Like, it's got to be done right now because she's coming over and we don't want her to get in the wrong hands. And so they were kind of nervous about that, but they were so excited about having this baby. They're like, okay, we'll be there, So they go down to Florida, and also they're planning a trip to Disney World. Once they get her, they're like, well, we're going to be in Florida. We'll just go spend a week at Disney World and show her. So they get to Florida, and the town this is in is a really kind of rundown town. And so they're kind of concerned. They're like, are we in the right place, And the address is like, they find it, and it's in like a strip mall, an old strip mall, not even a nice place. And so they like call the people up and like, we must have the wrong address or something, that something's not right. Like, no, you're in the right place, So they go inside, and they're put into this big room. It's their whole family, the couple and their 3 kids, and they said, just wait here. And they waited like hours in this room for them to bring this girl out. And so then there was a attached room, and they hear people rustling around in there, and they can hear people talking. So they're like, well, that's got to be her, And so the son is like looking through the keyhole, which, again, that was kind of alarming. Like, the old keyhole where you turn the key, like that's how old the place was. And he can see that she's in there, and she can kind of see glimpses of people. And so they're just getting really excited, but they're also very nervous. Like, she's 6. She's going to come out here like angry, at us, or, upset that we're taking her, or, how is she going to react, So finally the door opens, and she just runs right out to them. And, Mommy, Daddy, I'm so excited to see you. And right off the bat, they noticed she could talk very well for a 6-year-old. They're like, wow, her English is very good. And they had an interpreter there from the Ukraine to kind of help in this transition, And the lady's talking to her, and they're like, she doesn't understand a word that lady's saying, She understands English. Why do they even have her here? And obviously she doesn't even understand her own language. So again, red flags are going up, but they're excited. They're excited to have this baby, and they're excited to have somebody who's a perfect fit for their family. And so they take her, and they sign all the paperwork, and they go to Disneyland. And the first night, they're getting ready for bed, and Christine takes her into the bathroom, is going to give her a bath, and she like, holy cow. So she calls her husband in, and she goes, come here and look at this, So he goes in, and he's like, what? He goes, look at her. And he's like, what? And he goes like, look down. She had a full pubic hair, in her area there. Completely, fully pubic hair. So he's like, oh my God. So I'm like, that's weird, So, she gives her a bath, and they put her to bed, and she starts Googling, can a 6-year-old have pubic hair? And she finds a couple articles that it's possible. It's very unlikely, but, it's weird. So they go to Disneyland, and they have a good time, and she's getting along with everybody. She just totally fits in. She's so super nice and sweet. And they get home, and they have this big party, like with all their family and relatives and everybody around. And Christine's, I think it was her sister, says, she looks older than 6. She goes, and she acts older than 6. She goes, I know, it's kind of weird, but she's a small person, so she's tiny. She's really tiny, but she just looks older and talks and acts older. So they, whatever, and they're suspicious of it kind of at first, but don't know really what to think about it. And again, they're just kind of going by all these red flags because they're so excited to have this little girl. So a little time, a couple weeks go by, and all of a sudden, Christine finds in her bedroom panties that have been, she's had periods, So she has hidden them places so they wouldn't find them. So she, her and Michael pull her out and says, do you know what a period is? And she said, yes, I know. Unfortunately, I have periods, and I should have told you that. But she goes, I don't know why I have them, but I just do. And so they're like, now they're concerned. Now they're like, okay, something's not right. So they take her to the doctor. And all of a sudden, right at that time, she starts acting up, and she starts acting really weird. And all of a sudden, she doesn't like Christine. She'll say to him, I'm going to kill you. She's like, what? And they're like, yeah, I'm going to kill you. And so she goes, don't say that. She goes, no, I'm going to kill you. So they get really concerned, and, they got 3 boys at home, right? And so they make all these appointments at doctors, and the doctor is like, I don't know what to tell you. She definitely, because of her disease and her problems, she's tiny. But there's these platelets or something that stop when you stop growing. And he goes, I don't think she's going to grow any more than she is right now. It seems like she's done growing. And it is very, very, very unusual for a 6-year-old to have a period. But lots of times when there's a lot of drama and stuff going on, that happens, So they, take her home. Well, things just go from bad to worse. And their suspicions are just growing and growing. And and she keeps doing all these really weird things. And she kind of has like a split personality. And she's hiding knives under her bed, and all kinds of stuff like that. And she's talking very sexual to these boys, And she's like, no. I don't, you're only 6. How would you even know that? And you can't talk to the boys that way. And she's very attached to the boys, not Christine, So they take her to, so they're taking her to psychiatrists and stuff. And there's another couple who had a very similar child, their own, and Christine decides, I'm going to invite them over to have like a play date with her, and so she can see that there's other children, with these issues and stuff, and so they bring the girl over, and right away, they show on this thing I was watching pictures of the two, and like definitely their little girl is 6 and looks like she's 6 months, where this girl, she's 6 and she's tiny, but she kind of looks a lot older. You can tell there's no comparison. And just their personality, the girl's, she's 6, but probably acts like she's 3, because they probably babied her enough. And she's 6, but she's acting like she's 30, and she's talking to this girl like that. And she's talking sexual stuff. So the parents were like, okay, thanks, bye. And they never seen him again, right? And so then everything just keeps going bad. And now they're afraid to have her in the house. They're like, we don't know if she's going to kill us. And one night, they wake up in the middle of the night, and she's literally standing there with this great big knife. And they're like, Natalia is her name, Natalia. She goes, what are you doing? She goes, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to stab you. So they jump out of bed, and they take the knife from her, and they're like yelling and screaming at her, and they put her in a room. They're like, what are you supposed to do? This girl's going to kill somebody, And so this goes on and on and on for months and months. And now she's trying to tell her families and friends, and the friends are starting to turn away because they think it's really her regretting adopting a little girl, and they don't believe it. And even like the neighbors start turning on Christine and Michael because they don't, they're saying this girl is a monster, and so they start turning on them. And so finally, after it's like almost 2 years of this, they take her to this doctor, and the doctor said, oh no. So then they find out, they start researching all this stuff, and they find out she had been adopted before them. And this lady had her for a year. And that entire year, she's trying to adopt her out to anybody who will take her, And this is actually on it's not HBO anymore. I think it's called Max or something. They're interviewing these couples that this lady tried to pawn them off on. And one couple was a little couple, so they really wanted her, but they couldn't do it because they had too many disabilities. And so they were really on her side. Another lady, said, that this lady just she was so forceful in trying to get her to adopt her. They backed off. And so now they find out she was actually, from Ukraine, but she's lived here all her life, and she was adopted a year before, and it spun out of control. So she was trying to unload them, and she's the one that went to this agency and researched this family to say, hey, I think we got somebody that will take her. And but the agency won't give these people any information because it's all, you can't, talk about it. So they won't tell her anything about her history. They wouldn't tell her anything about this lady who had her, other than they found out they got a hold of these people. And but again, they're all blaming the parents. They're like, this poor little girl, and she has a disability with her feet, so it's really hard for her to walk and stuff. So they take her to this doctor. This is about 2 years later, so now she's about 8, and he does all these tests and stuff, and he said she definitely is not the age she says she is. She goes, the only thing I can say is it appears that she is 14 years older than what you think she is. So now that puts her 22 years old. So they go to court, and they have her birthday changed legally. And they have this doctor who's going to back it all up, although the doctor now has passed away, so they don't really have a lot of proof of this, But so she went from 8 to now she's 22 years old. And now she's 22. So they get her an apartment not even in their town, in another town. They get her an apartment to live in, and she lives there for a year on her own. And the people in the neighborhood are a little different. It's obviously a lower income place, you can see. But they're all, first they're infatuated with her and they can't believe, she's 22. And they always think, like the one lady next door, and she was an older lady. She's seen the mom drop her off and just left a whole bunch of groceries outside her door and just sat in her car while Natalia takes it in the house. And so this old lady feels sorry for her. So she goes over. She's thinking this is like, a little kid, just tiny. She's thinking like a 4-year-old. So she goes over and she wants to help her. And so she goes, I could see the mother in the car. And she was just like sitting there, all, you can tell she was wealthy. It was a Cadillac. And she was just like, what is wrong with this? So she takes this and the girl, she says, is that your mother out there? And she goes, yeah. She goes, why doesn't she come in and help you? You're just a little girl. And she goes, I'm 22 years old, So she kind of goes off on this lady. So she goes, oh, okay. Then she said, after she tells me that I can kind of see, maybe she's 22, but she's handicapped. She has some problems. So she's still mad at the mom. But anyways, then all the neighbors are kind of like excited right at first. There was a young couple that had I think they had 2 kids. They're kind of like feel sorry for her, so they're kind of trying to help her and giving her food. And they all said like she would never take a shower. She was always dirty and stinky. And so at first everybody's trying to help her, but then she just becomes such a nuisance to them. Like every time they come home, she's sitting on their porch, or they'll come home and she's in the refrigerator eating their food, and they just can't like get rid of her. She just won't go away. And so she starts really freaking everybody out. And the couple that had the 2 kids, she starts talking sex to these little boys, And again, she doesn't like the mom. She's attached to the father and the boys, And so they start like they don't want to like be mean to her because obviously she's disabled and stuff, but they're having enough of her, And then so everybody in this apartment complex start complaining to the owners. They're like, you got to do something with her. She's really tormenting everybody. And she just won't leave people alone. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can really do, And so a whole year goes by. And then when her lease is due, they won't renew her lease. So, they're still working with the parents, but the parents aren't there. They don't ever come over. The dad has come over a few times to check on her and stuff, but really they just leave her on her own. And the apartment, they won't re-sign the lease, so the parents now have to find her a new apartment. So they go to another town, and the mother literally tells them, well, we're going to put her in this town, and I don't remember what the name of it was, because there's nothing but white trash people here, so she'll fit right in and nobody will notice her, And they get her a new apartment, and it's an old rundown house, and it's up these really steep stairs and stuff. And so, she, because of her feet problems, she can't even function going up and down the stairs, So people see this and they're like, what is going on with this little girl? And they start investigating it. And finally this other couple, she kind of makes friends with them. And so they're like, what is going on here? And they said, we think this is endangerment of somebody, like somebody's got to take care of you, and even if you are 22, you still are not capable of, taking care of yourself. They can't just dump you, so they take her in, right? And the family, Michael and Christine and the boys, now move to Canada because this 14-year-old, or he's not 14 now, he's I think 16, is in the special master's program, that he got offered to him because he was such a genius in Canada. So they're living in Canada, and they dump her off in this dumpy apartment in this dumpy town and just leave her there, right? So these other people start taking care of her. Well, then this other couple, they start thinking, well, we should be getting her income, because she's getting, income from the state and food stamps and all this stuff, because they've set it up for her to get all this stuff because she's 22. But the money actually is going to the father. So, and he's paying the bills, right? So they go to court because they want to get this money, because now she's living with them. So this starts like this whole big legal battle. And so this goes on and on forever. And they still don't know how old this girl is. She's obviously not the age they thought she was, but she's probably not 22 neither, And they figure now they're figuring that she's probably was 10 when they left her to live in these apartments.
Oh, jeez.
So now all these legal battles have gone on, and now the parents have separated because now they're getting a divorce over this, and of course they're all they're blaming each other, and the father is the one that's mostly this documentary is about. He's very dramatic. Everybody in the story, everybody in this documentary are, just a little off. When you're looking at them, you're like, these are kind of different people. But the father is definitely different, And he lost his job. He had like a big job. They never really said what it was, but it was a big corporate job. Well, when they found out that, because they come and arrested him for abandonment of her, right? Of a child, because now these people are saying this is a child, this is an adult. So now they arrested him for abandonment of a child. So now this where he works, they have footage of this, him in jail, being arrested. So they fire him. So now he has no income. Now he's lost all of his savings, and he's lost his house, he's lost his cars, he's lost everything. He doesn't have anything left. The mother, moves to Florida, so they're blaming each other, and he's saying it was all the mom. This is all her thing, and she was very abusive to her and beat her up and did all kinds of stuff. And so they go to court, but in the end, first he goes to court, and he had 4 counts against him, child endangerment, and I don't know, a bunch, whatever they were. And he's acquitted of all of them, So then she goes to court, and before it even starts, they drop all the charges. So in the end, you never know who this is and how old she is, And this is a very strange. And I don't know if one of you guys can Google a picture of her, but she clearly is not a child.
Well, I don't think that's true, because you can see photos. I think she was. Maybe she wasn't 6. Like maybe she was in her teens. Her name is Natalia Grace.
Right.
And Natalia Grace is her name. But you can clearly see a difference between when she was with the family, pictures when she was taken when she was first adopted, and like even now, she's doing interviews now. There's a clear change. Like she has clearly grown up. Like she was a child, whether she was 10, 12, 15, who cares? She was still a child, and now she is an adult, and there is a clear difference. So they're lying about that. Like they are lying that the doctor said, "Oh, she's not going to grow anymore," because she has grown. She has become a woman.
Passed away, so they can't bring him to court to say, "Hey, what did you know what I mean?" But I mean, that was my take too. I think she probably was. She had to be old enough to really have a period.
Right.
And I know that can happen
that's
really
not true
early.
because that's not true because there is no like real like
the youngest
science.
mother in history was 5.
Yeah, so like there is no clear like science to when women are supposed to have their period.
There's no really real proof of documentation. It's a somebody said that.
But even so, like it really like girls can have periods at very young ages. That's not like I don't think that's a weird thing, especially somebody who has, she's a very rare form of dwarfism, and like even like the pubic hair, like people have different genes. They have, especially like in like certain cultures, like they have different hormones and different genes, and especially somebody who has disabilities, they're going to have extreme hormones. They're going to have extreme, differences in body.
She most likely is on medications, because of her dwarfism, or maybe was when she was younger, which if there was like steroids or hormones, it causes you to, go into that menstrual phase faster.
They actually ended up finding her, well, what they think is her real birth mother from the Ukraine. And
how old does she say?
She claims she was a couple years older than what they said. You know what I mean? Like, she would have been 8 when they adopted her.
Right. And that's
she'd have been, that's how they figured out she was really 10 when they put her in that apartment, going by the mother. Of course, again, they don't really have any proof of that neither. It's just like they found this lady and she's saying, yeah, this is, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean it's true. Every character in this whole story are different. You know what I mean? You're like, like, where people you'd be like, I don't know about that, but so that's why they figured out she probably was 10 when they put her in that apartment, because that's the birth date the mother gave her. And and they had a lady on there who kind of did the whole thing, and clearly she wasn't 6, but 14 years was a lot to add to that. So they're thinking they went to court to have this done just so they could unload her. And say she's an adult and put her at, like at 10.
Yeah. I 100% believe that.
And now in her interviews, and she seems very nice and sweet in the interviews.
Anybody can be nice and sweet.
But, she's saying that she was abused, and the stories of her saying she was going to kill them are not true. And there was an incident where they, they'd all had enough. They just couldn't take it no more. And it was the one of the kid's birthday, and he wanted to go to a dairy farm for his birthday and milk a cow and do all that kind of stuff. Not like us, who had been just around the corner to do it. But so they all go. So they all go, right? And and right away they're giving them the people that own the farm are giving them a tour of the farm, and they're like, do not go by this electric fence. It's electric. It will shock you. So whatever you do, stay away from this fence, right? And the father's going like, you could see it in her eyes, like, oh, this is going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, she was just lit up when she found out this was a very dangerous fence, right? So then they're going, and she starts complaining that she can't walk anymore because of her feet. And so they're like, come on,
farmland is not really stable either. Like, probably not the best environment for her to be in.
He lays down and throws this big temper tantrum. So the mom says to Michael, take the boys, go do the things. I'm not going to let her ruin it for his birthday. I'll stay here with her. You go, So then they're in there, in the barn milking the cows, and all of a sudden they hear a bunch of commotion going on. And they hear a police car come by, and they go out there, and the mom is in hysterics and screaming and hollering and carrying on because she claims that this Natalia tried to throw her into this electric fence, right? And so, the police come, and of course they don't really do anything because it's your daughter, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, and so now when she's on these shows, she's saying that didn't happen. She was trying to set it up to make it look like I did that. She goes, but I did not do it. Like, she is the one who threw herself into the fence, and so she could like try to turn it around to make it look like I was trying to do this to her. So, but you got to admit, it'd be kind of scary if it is true. You wake up and she's got a big knife. And
well, here's the thing, is that mental disorders don't discriminate based off, oh, you already have a disability here. So, like, she could have had bipolar disorder. Like, instead of, like, being scared of her, like, go get a mental check to see if she has something.
Yeah, they did do that to that. And actually, again, she was very sexual with the boys, so they had to keep that separate. When she was in the apartment, there was another couple, and they had 2 boys. Same thing. And she ended in that same apartment. There was a boy. They caught her trying to take his pants off, and they caught her.
But that's not checking. That's not like going to an actual mental doctor and like getting and like that's completely different from bipolar disorder. That is clearly a learned behavior. So somewhere along the way, all these adoptive families that are trying to like basically get rid of her, somewhere that's a learned behavior, whether she's 22 or not.
Before they put her into this apartment, they did put her into a facility for, unstable people. And the facility ended up kicking her out because she was so sexual with the men that, helped and stuff. And she caused so much disturbance. They ended up kicking her out. They were like, you got to come get her. We can't have her here. And,
so she could have been sexually molested when she lived
That's
with her.
That's what I was thinking too, is that she had a history of being sexually abused from a young kid.
Right.
Like younger than when she was adopted.
In Ukraine, probably. But also, and there was a lady on there that's, was doing a story. She said it's very common for, like, in the Ukraine or these countries where they're poor and they want to, they're trying to adopt these kids out, that they will take years off of their age because, who wants to
adopt the 10-year-old?
Yeah, right. So they'll take ages off to get people to adopt.
A lot of, not even just in like, lower income countries. That happens here. Like that happens to a lot of orphans and people who are trying to get adopted. Like they will lower the age because they know people are looking for babies. They're looking for young children that they don't have to correct any of these behaviors in,
Right. So, but remember the movie, The Orphan?
Yes.
It's the exact same thing.
Exact same premise. Isn't that so weird? And it came out after this.
This would have happened. Yeah, that movie was before that.
It was like during. So it was like during the times. Like it hadn't like come out yet. But it wasn't like wasn't based off, like that movie wasn't based off this story.
Right. But isn't that a bizarre story?
Yeah.
It is very bizarre.
And
I do think the parents should be charged. Because she was adopted after these family, and she is, to this day, still with them, and they said that they have never had a single problem with her.
Yeah. Well,
she is currently in a family. They did. Yeah.
They did.
They became legal guardians, so I don't know if that's like technically, it's not the same, but she has been with the family that she was put with since, and they have had no problems with her. And she, again, you can clearly see an age difference in pictures of when this all was happening and she was a 22-year-old woman and now, and it's a clear difference difference that there is.
I'm sure they have, like, I've seen her on what's the guy's name? I hate the show. He's not a psychiatrist, but he's
Dr. Phil. Yeah, well, he's another problem child.
Because it's like, who are you to say anything?
Yeah, he's been getting in a lot of trouble.
Dr. Phil to solve your problem. You don't have.
Yeah.
But anyways, she was on that, and clearly they had cleaned her up, and she looked very nice on them.
That's what TV shows do. Like that's they do that to everyone.
Dramatic differences, and I think she thinks, at the time of the Phil Donahue or Phil, whatever he is,
Dr. Phil.
I think she was claiming to be 17 at that point, so she wasn't even an adult at that point. So there's a documentary now on, like I said, it's not HBO anymore. I think it's called Max or something.
Max.
Yeah. So, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. Could you imagine going through such a thing?
No. And I don't, if she was actually because I don't think that maybe all of the instances are, false. I think maybe that she was being sexual with men. Maybe she was, saying, "Oh, I'm going to kill you," or all these like kind of concerning things, but it's not like those are like, it's not like a child couldn't hear that and repeat that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think
Right.
that it was, I don't think she was an adult. I think she was a kid, and they just didn't know how to handle what they were given.
Right.
And tried to
They
make
were
all
not-
these excuses.
They should have never been allowed to adopt her because obviously she had some issues. But
Well, they
all
should
the
have been
flags,
informed. I'm not
you
saying that
can't-
they shouldn't have been informed. Like, this was obviously a very sketchy situation of how they got adopted, or how she got adopted.
and
But
they really should have known you can't adopt somebody in 24 hours.
no,
And then-
right.
Right.
Then they're saying, well, we can't tell you anything about her history, and then that her not knowing Ukraine language would have been a big red flag for me.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Right.
wait a minute,
Right.
you're 6. You should know how
If
to
they're
speak.
saying she's coming straight from
Yeah.
Ukraine.
And they were saying how well spoken she was for a 6-year-old. It was like she talked like an adult, So there was a lot of red flags right off the bat, that they could have. But they were excited to have a new child. And
Well, why would they go all the way from Indiana to Florida to get
not
adopt
even
the kid?
follow up on this agency, like
Right. Like, you're just gonna get a call that's like, hey, we got a kid here, and you're just gonna drive all the way to Florida and pick this kid up? No.
I definitely would have gotten an attorney involved, So it's, but
Right.
so there was
Yeah,
a lot
'cause
of
especially if he had this big, huge job, and I think she was like a self-help book writer or something. Like, she had
yes,
she had written
did.
like children help books.
Yeah.
Like,
Because-
nourish your children.
and they had a
So they had the income to support, research into this.
Right. Oh, he said, they had $100,000 in the bank. They had a big home. They had cars. They had, they were just living, and so they were excited to share their good wealth with somebody. Going to somebody who really needed them, and and stuff. So that was all very exciting to them. So, but, yeah, I mean, I think there's truth all the way around.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think
Yeah.
there's truth in the story on all sides, but
Yeah.
I do think they
And I
abandoned the
would
shot.
have been very, very alarmed if I adopted a 6-year-old and she had full pubic hair and was having periods. I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, wait, something's not right here.
Different. It would be different, and it would be like concerning. It's something you would go to a doctor. And, maybe they did the work. I don't know, but like, I'm sure. I think it's concerning that she gives this girl a bath and sees this, and then immediately is like, "Hey, husband, come look at this child, naked
Yeah.
child."
Yeah.
Like, that's
Well,
concerning
me
to me,
too.
and that's probably why she didn't like the mom too much, because I'm sure the mom was constantly making
Well,
sexual
I'm
innuendos to her.
I'm sure the mom was not nice to her. And
No.
his defense is now, Michael, his defense
Yeah.
was he was abusive to her. And
Mhm.
he had a video of her. I think she wouldn't eat her dinner or something. So they made her like lean against a wall. And they're like, you're not getting up until you eat your dinner. She was there for like 20 hours.
Yeah.
She had defecated in her pants. They still like, no, you're not getting up until. And so the dad,
That's abuse.
Michael, the reason they have video of it, he videotaped it because he goes, I'm probably going to need proof of this at some point. But then she catches him videotaping and gets all mad and tries to wreck the phone and everything, but they were able to recover it. And I mean, so he's kind of seen, okay, wait a minute, things aren't looking
This
good.
is interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like, so that instance, clearly there's some resentment, towards
And she was
Natalia.
like, every time somebody would call her and say, hey, she's causing problems here, and she would like, well, that's none of your business. That's my daughter. Just stay away from her and don't, she was not supportive of anything,
No. I don't know. And especially, I think the like farm thing too, like whether or not, Natalia tried to throw her into the electric fence, this person, whether you think they're 22, whether or not you think they're an old like woman, clearly has a disability that makes it really hard for her to walk. And you're going to take her to a farm and make her walk around this farm and then be like mad that she throws a temper tantrum. Like, yeah, she's probably in a lot of pain. Like,
And
she's upset.
why wouldn't you have some type of walker or something to put
An
her in.
assistant.
But,
Welcome,
but also
assistant.
like I think it was on Dr. Phil. You know, the mom threw a big tantrum and insisted they call the police because, like, I want a record of her trying to kill me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or really, it kind of backfired on her. You know, but
Right.
she was trying to gather evidence of why she would, you know, send her off. So, anyway, can you
I
imagine?
know.
It's
No.
crazy.
It's a crazy
What a
story.
crazy
It is a
story.
crazy story.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have been acquitted, but I guess.
I know. I
Yeah.
don't. That's what I couldn't figure out is he was very nervous and he had a bunch of people around him because I think he thought he was going to jail, and it was like a 25-year sentence. And
Because
even
I
his
feel like
attorney, I can't
even
remember what.
again, like even if she's an adult, I don't know what the Indiana state law states, but like she's clearly got a disability where she needs a guardian.
Oh, okay.
Like so
In
it's
his-
still abandonment, right?
in
Like
his court case, they could not use the evidence that she was a child. They had that was about abandoning your 22-year-old daughter who was not capable of taking herself.
oh
They
well
were
yeah, good.
not allowed to
I
bring
mean
into
they still
evidence
got further stuff.
was
Right.
probably 10. So the jury never knew that she was probably 10. They thought she
Yeah.
was a 20-year-old. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's true. But even
And
still, like
he said something
it's still
in
abandonment.
court.
Like I don't understand like whether or not the jury thought she was 22 and whether she had like anger issues, anything like this. She clearly has a disability. You can clearly see it. It's not like an invisible disability where it's hard to tell, you know.
Right.
And you have neighbors saying like
Well,
she couldn't get up these stairs.
Just because you're have dwarfism and have, you know, problems with your muscles or whatever, that doesn't mean you're able to say I'm going to kill you. I mean,
Well,
like,
but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like there's clearly a disability where she needs assistance. So like
Right.
even if it wasn't them
people
taking
don't-
care of her, she should have had an assist, like a nurse practitioner or something, you know, helping
and the
her.
people who have her now, the reason they took her in was this couple left her in this apartment where she had to climb these stairs.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do it. So she just
Right.
wouldn't leave the house. Or when she did get out of the house, she, you know, somebody had to help her get back up, and she didn't know anybody. So she would just stop people on the street, like, hey, you know, can you help me? You know. Yeah.
Well, imagine like so like go back to the like, you know, they talked about how like she wasn't very hygienic and she didn't bathe herself. Like I'm sure that place didn't have like a walk-in shower. Like, can you imagine her trying to get into a bathtub by herself?
Now,
Get
the
out of the
first part
bathtub when
she
it's
was in-
slippery.
The first part when she was in that they wouldn't renew her lease, it was a one floor, you know, walk. There was no steps. You know, it was kind of perfect for her, you know. But the other one was not. The ones they put her in and then moved to Canada, you know.
But again, this is a family where the dad is saying he has a high-paying job. The mom is a self-help book writer, and they put her in a low-income housing
Right.
unit.
And they did that purposely because that was one of the things that was brought up in court too. They did it purposely
So that she could get assistance, like food
Because-
stamps. And
she'll be just like these people. Well, now the jury are those people that she's
jury
Right.
up here.
are not going to notice, you know, that But I can't remember what he said in court. It was very damning, and his attorney was just like, "You blew it. You admitted to this." You know what I mean? And so when he got acquitted of all four, even the attorney, they couldn't believe it. They just couldn't believe that he got off.
Yeah.
He went in there thinking, "I'm going to jail," you know. And he's one of those people, like, you ever hear, like, well, lots of people do this, but they think they're really being smart by saying something, and all they did was just incriminate themselves
Admit
more.
to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They think they're being smart about it, you know. It's like, why would you say that? You know, like, yeah.
Like OJ writing a book that says, if I did it,
Right.
here's what I would do.
Why would you say that? You just admitted that you dumped her, you know. Yeah. So I don't know. It's very, very. And now the son who is autism, but got this master's degree and stuff. He's like living in this guy's basement, and now he doesn't live in a nice home. He lives in an old crappy house, you know. And
Mhm.
this kid is living in his basement because the other two stuck with the mom. He stuck with them, and he's, you know, clearly not, you know, right.
Is this the autistic one, or is this
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
like?
one that was autistic and so smart. And you know, just to listen to him talk, you're like, oh my God, you know, what a mess. And he's living in this guy's basement now, you know, and it's an old basement, like an old Michigan basement, you know, like brick walls, and you know, like not even a nice basement. It's just old, you know, the furnace is right there and hot water
It's probably
heater.
better than a low-income housing unit. That's all I can say.
Well, it looks like it's a low income housing unit. So, and of course,
Home hits back sometimes
this
like
guy
that.
is making money off this documentary, right? When did he make the money? Because he has no money now. I mean, this completely ruined their lives and took everything from them, and you know.
I mean, good. I really like whether she was an adult or not, whether she had these, you know, spouts of anger and aggression and sexual, you know, innuendos. Like they abandoned her and then moved to Canada without. I don't even think they told her, right? Like they just moved and she didn't even know.
I don't know if she knew that they were living in Canada or not. I don't remember that coming out. But yeah, it was bad. You know, and in a way, I feel bad for the parents. Like, oh, we thought we were going to do this great thing, and it just went so bad. And really, how do you? I mean, how should have they handled it? You know, obviously they shouldn't have put her in an apartment and left her by herself. But
Oh.
I mean, they think she's going to murder them in their sleep. Well, obviously you can't stay here. You know, we have other kids, and
No, I don't think you can stay there, but there's probably a billion other options than just dumping her in
well,
an
they tried to
apartment.
put her in the facility, and the facility said no, she
Yeah,
can't stay
okay,
here.
has anybody from this facility come
They were
forward?
on there. They
Okay.
were on the documentary, and they were like, it was scary having her here. You didn't know what she was going to do, and you know.
This is a mental facility, and they're
I don't know.
scared of a
I
girl
don't know
with
what it
mental
was.
problems.
I don't know. It was some kind of facility for people that are not there. I
Have
don't
they
know.
watched Girl Interrupted? I'm sure. I'm sure that this happened before.
Whoopi Goldberg was not there to take care of everything and set them straight.
I'm just saying, like, you know, mental institutions have people who have mental disabilities, mental problems. I'm sure this Natalia is not the first case they've seen with sexual preferences and, you know, saying crazy things.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems odd that, like, everybody is scared of this person.
Yeah, everybody was scared of her. Everywhere she went, they started out feeling really sorry for her, but by the end of it, they were like, "Don't." Like the families like would lock their doors and stay in the house and pretend like they weren't home, you know, and then you know like do anything to. Oh God, here she comes, you know, like you know, hide everybody. You know? But they all started out feeling bad for her and trying to help her. And
But it's not like she was telling these neighbors, you know, I'm going to kill you or I'm going to do all these things. Like they weren't scared of her. They just didn't like her because she would come and ask for help. And like she was like she would just go to their house because she needed someone to take care of her.
She believed that she was 22. You know, like when they did that, she was like, you know, she believed it. She doesn't now. Now she doesn't, but at the time she's like,
your
okay,
parents are telling you, oh, you're not, you know, you're an adult now. You're an adult. And especially a kid. Every kid wants to be an adult. So you tell your kid, 10-year-old kid, oh, you're 22. Oh, I'm 22. I can take in my groceries. I can do this.
Dr. Phil said, you know, like something to her like, well, what would you like now? You know, and she was like, well, I would have loved to stayed with them and been their daughter. You know, if you had any problems, why would you want to go back there? You know, like.
But that's all she knew, especially at that time.
I guess. And the people that have her now, I didn't know they adopted her, but they're questionable too. I mean, because they interviewed them, and I kind of really took it as, well, they want her Social Security and her food stamps is what they want,
No, maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe not. If she's still there and they adopted her. But it wasn't a different
Well,
too.
but even so, they've had her since 2013, 10 years.
Yeah.
And so how old is she really?
Nobody knows.
Nobody ever knows. She doesn't know. She doesn't know.
Really, isn't it kind of sad? Like, could you imagine just being her? Like, you don't know your actual birthday. You don't know how old you actually are. You just have gone through all this trauma of being told, oh, you're 6. Oh, you're 10. Oh, you're 22. Oh, no, you really are 10. Like, how confusing is it to her?
Right.
I mean, when I seen the videos of her, when they first adopted her, I could have clearly believed that because she was a dwarf.
I still haven't seen any pictures.
She didn't look like a 6-year-old. You know what I mean? She looked older. Her face structure was older. You know what I mean? She's tiny.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the pictures that we see when she was first adopted in the family, she looks like a kid to me. Not like maybe not a young kid, but like also you have to remember that dwarfism affects the face as well. And a lot of people with this dwarfism, like they have very like not weird features, but like different looking features. Think about like a person with Down syndrome. They have features that look very like different to what we're used to in a child.
It's a distinctive look.
It's a distinctive look, and it's something that if you were just to like if you didn't even know what dwarfism was, if you didn't know what Down syndrome was, and you saw a kid, you'd be like, that kid looks weird. I bet he's like, I don't know, he's probably not a kid.
Well, you definitely looked at her and said something's not right here. I mean, like she wasn't a typical 6-year-old.
But what's a typical 6-year-old, especially somebody who's been adopted and returned and tried to be abandoned?
They have videos of her and just the way she talks. You're like, that's not a 6-year-old talking there. You know what I mean?
But like, she probably was never in a home that had like children. Well, like children. So like, all you hear is people talking at a certain way.
Her mother said that she gave her up at birth, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then who knows where she was at until a year before she got adopted. She was adopted a year before them. Mm-hmm. And this lady, right off the bat, started unloading, trying to find where she could unload her.
Mm-hmm.
And so who knows where she was at, or who had her. And even like if it was the system that had her, and she was, well, there'd be records of that. You know what I mean? There's no records of anything.
She probably honestly was human trafficked because a lot of people see human trafficking as like a sexual thing. And obviously there's some sexual, things happening, but a lot of like people human traffic and then sell children to adoption agencies to be adopted out.
Mm-hmm.
So she probably was human trafficked.
I would say the mother, and I won't say this for sure because I can't really remember. They didn't really. She didn't have much to say. The mother, like in this documentary, but they did track her down, and she just gave her up to an adoption agency who was going to take her to America. You know what I mean? Probably that was not a legit adoption.
Probably not.
So it probably was trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you do with a newborn baby? You know what I mean?
You would hate to know. You would hate to know.
Right. But I don't know.
There's lots of people that would do.
There are lots of people,
yeah.
But still, if she was 6 or if she was 8, that's old enough to have memories of what happened to you.
No, well, if it's trauma, sometimes your brain closes out those memories and you're not able to remember that.
Yeah,
trauma.
I know.
And especially as a kid, like, your memories of things are so skewed by, aspects of how you view it.
Right.
It takes people years to realize something that happened to them like things that they remember, but the facts of what happened as a
Right.
kid.
Right.
Like, look at like the whole point of my song thing is I'm taking songs that you played as a child or heard when you were younger, and I'm like, oh, here, like, let's take off this rose-colored glass lens, and this is what it's really about.
Right.
Well,
Right.
yeah. I mean, they were very foolish in adopting her.
Yeah,
Although
I agree.
flag went up, I'd be like, no, I'm not going. Like, no, she needs to spend some time at our house first, and we need to spend some time with her.
There needs to be
Especially
some kind of
6 years
in
old,
between. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was foolish, and I'm sure they probably knew at the time they're not going through a legal adoption here,
Right. Right.
because you don't just adopt a child. That I know,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's what my thing is. Like, there's clearly some holes in this story, so you can't really believe anything. Like, if there's one lie, you can't really believe. Well, you can't. But that's what I'm saying. You can't really believe the parents because there's clearly some holes in their story. So whether or not this stuff, like some of these things happen, we don't know what is truth and we don't know what is lie at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, I think they in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they probably knew she was older than what they were saying. And when the judge said, I'm going to add 14 years just because of the mother, and I don't, how he came up with that number. It was a crazy way he came up with the number too. Because he came
up with the doctor.
The judge, because the judge said, well,
why would
just going to. No, and the judge actually, they were determining, and he goes, I'm just going to add 4 years onto her because we don't know. You know what I mean? So
4 or 14?
Then, he was saying 18, but I'm just going to add 4 more years and make her 22. Okay. So obviously, they were going through that process, so they were thinking, oh, we're going to, she's an adult. You know what I mean? She's older than what she's saying, and we believe so. We might as well just make her an adult. That way we can unload her. You know what I mean?
Right.
If she's 17, well, then, now we are abandoning a child. And then when they went to
court, I think that's why I think that's literally why they wanted to get rid of her. They didn't know what to do. And so this idea of, well, she's an adult. If we say she's an adult, I think I don't think they actually believe she's an adult. I think they just use that as an excuse to be like, we need to get her out of the house.
And they found a doctor who would put that in writing. You know what I mean?
Right.
They probably went to 100 doctors, and finally they found one that said that. I don't know.
I definitely, I don't know.
But their intentions to begin with were right. Their intentions were right. You know what I mean? I don't think they intended to adopt this nightmare,
Right.
And I never could figure out why they dropped the charges for her too. They just dropped them all because
that is true.
It's at this documentary. He got acquitted of all the charges, but it was all mostly because they thought this is all the mother, not him. You know what I mean? And so they were really, she had no hope of winning. Like, she's going to jail. This is all her. Well, then they just completely dropped the charges.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they show her going to court the first day, so it was already, in motion, the court and stuff. But anyways, it's an interesting documentary.
I do think it's an interesting case, interesting study of, what do you believe in this story?
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of warnings to couples that want to adopt, maybe
Yeah.
a child.
Like,
from-
do your research and
research
yeah,
does
like
work.
if your red flags are going off, they're going off for a reason,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things happening in the world right now where it's like maybe you should have thought about that through, like, for 5 more minutes.
It's not to say that even if they found all the facts, nobody should adopt her. But
Right.
no,
Be prepared to all
the things that you have in front of you. Yeah. Because still, even if she has all those problems, well, she's worth adopting. Somebody adopting her.
Somebody like she needs. That's the thing is I think she just needs help. I think she needs to I'm sure there's some kind of like medication she should be on if she's having these bouts of aggression and bouts of anger. Like she just needs help. Like it's clear that she needs help, and this family just couldn't provide that for her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was like I said, they were living a very nice life. They had money, they had homes, and so it probably put a damper on their status,
Right.
They had issue. Yeah. Well, actually it did because they didn't tell anybody about all these problems for a long time because they didn't want they just didn't want this to be known,
Mm-hmm.
And so finally when she started confiding in people, she thought the people would be on her side. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you've been living. They're like, this is your daughter you're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I have.
It's an interesting story. I remember hearing about this.
I never heard about it. When I did hear about it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the movie, The Orphan,
Well, yeah, the first time I heard about it, I was like, oh, is that what the movie is based off? I was thinking it was like 1980s, like back, like, I don't know when, but like I thought it was way before the movie came out. And like the movie was based off that.
So you said the movie was out about 2010?
I think so. I think 2008 is when that movie came out.
Oh, so it had been before they adopted her. Maybe they watched that movie one too many times.
Yeah, 2009 is when the Orphan film came out.
Wow, that was just before then.
Do you have work?
What?
And then do you have work?
So now everything seems a little suspicious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, you got anything else you want to add?
Boo-boo. Kudo.
Who is that?
Kind of.
It's a Carnotaurus.
We needed your expert techniques earlier.
Yeah.
Expertise.
Okay.
All right, guys.
All right.
We're all set. I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay.
Again, everybody, just tell folks how they can find us.
Okay. Make sure you click the like button, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, share, subscribe, be part of our family. And if you have questions or comments, email us at thefamilyschooloffthought@gmail.com. Right?
Great.
Right.
And Cass, they can find our program anywhere.
You can find us on YouTube. Oh, that was Cassie's question. There you go.
They can find us on YouTube. They can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just about anywhere.
Anywhere where you find your podcast.
Dude, my favorite.
Right.
Okay, bye everybody. Bye, Otis.
Bye.
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 Woo-hoo.